That was one of the starting points that I had, especially being in the Bay Area. The biggest industry in the world, I think, is technology. I think the entire world is going to an entirely new space. We're moving away from coal and mining and steel workers and lumber. I think it's moving to technology. So I went to each of those major companies, the companies that I put their logos actually in the slide, in the video screen. I went to how they reported their diversity numbers. And I started with, a lot of it is public information, and some of it I had to dig through and go back to 2018 to look at the performance of the percentages. When I talk about that all-up number, it's an aggregate number across those 30 companies that I called out. They are representative to me as the industry leaders from a brand perspective, as well as an employee size of a company. Those are the things that I pulled from. Data for the NFL, the NBA are all public information as well, and I can share what those links are. And in fact, today, my NBA numbers are actually wrong. I said that there were 7 Black coaches. 4 have now been fired. We're down to 3 Black coaches to represent a population of 80 to 85% Black in an organization. So what I'm really trying to call out is, even in the industry where we're the largest percentage of representation, we still don't hold any leadership or any equity in these companies or organizations. The other place where you find a lot of the historical data, when I went back to slavery, when I went back to what's happened in the 60s, a lot of that data was also pulled from public research that I looked through the archives in the state of North Carolina. That was representative there as well. That's where I'm actually from, Greensboro, North Carolina, and just the public information through all of our legal documents, Constitution, Bill of Rights, etc. Some of the data from the Tulsa, Oklahoma case is also, I can share that as well. I dug through a lot of information through the archives in Tulsa. And then, of course, the extensive research, one that I was really keen to find, was looking at the lineage of today's existing companies. So what you saw there was in 1920, 1921, when they were burning down one of the biggest booming Black communities, which is Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was Black Wall Street. I wanted to look at that same time, which companies today exist at the time when we were being killed off. And so that's what that represented. And I went and found how Disney got started. There was a company that they bought called Laugh-O-Gram, and Laugh-O-Gram created Mickey Mouse. And Mickey Mouse became a staple for Disney. That is now the multi-billion-dollar company that we know of today, and the largest media company in the world. And then the same with Lowe's, AMC Theaters, and then a portion, a segment of what we know today as JP Morgan and Chase. Elements of those companies were started in 1920 and 1921. So I can share those links. I'll make sure that I get that data to this organization across all of those areas to go back check and look at that information.
I wouldn't mind just commenting on that. That was so powerful to put Black Wall Street in that context of, this is what it was. And it wasn't just the loss then, it's the loss of what could have become. Yeah. And where would those Black-owned businesses be today?
Correct.
And, I think the way Black Wall Street, when it is introduced into a white audience, it's only presented as that was then.
Yep.
And the way that you did it in this film was just beautiful. It was wonderful. Were there other questions that people have?
I'm just wondering where your trajectory is for taking this. I'm curious. I mean, other than places like this.
In short, this is going to be promoted quite a bit on all of my social channels. The Rubric is on Instagram, on Facebook. the next step, I believe, is really raising awareness. I'm not going into it with the perception of, I'm not Spike Lee. Let's be crystal clear. I'm not trying to make blockbuster movies and go into Netflix. It's more of me using everything that I've done for another company. I wanted to do and have a voice for my community. And there's no expectation that I have to reach, oh, I need to make sure that this community or that community, or I get this specific job. If that comes out of it, great. I'm using my authentic voice to reach as many people as I can to spark up a conversation. And so when people make statements about what's really going on, what's really happening, yada, 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 I want to have another point of view that's backed by data and be able to tell the story visually. And that's all this is. But I believe that it will be impactful once I reach more audiences. When more people start to see it, I'm hoping that our leaders, there's very few of us in the Black community who have a platform to be able to shout from the rooftops and have millions of people hear it. In the Black community, many people typically know them as entertainers. Sports, music, movies. And if they by some chance start to grasp onto this concept and start to take note to some of these things and look further, that would be a win for me, where they can take pieces of this and say, oh, let me explore more. Black Wall Street is one of them. There's Wilmington, North Carolina. At the time when Rosa Parks was marching, we were also spinning up our own bus lines, our own taxi cab companies. Nobody today could fathom that a taxi cab company is all Black owned and that was all Black, or a bus company. Those are the types of things I would hope our leaders would start to listen to and start to explore and say, wait a minute. I think we have an opportunity to have a seat at the table as well to do this.
It's Claiborne in New Orleans and Fillmore in San Francisco.
Yeah, that's correct. That is correct. And so that's what I use. That's why I've latched on so much. My true passion, media-wise, is definitely around the NBA. It's not just because I like basketball. I love the game. But there's very few communities. I was just telling Matthew this the other day. There's two, what I would call industries or companies where we have the majority representation. Let's say we Black people. That is the NFL and the NBA. There's no other organization in the world, definitely not in the United States, that has 70 to 80% Black representation. So that's another reason why I really support those leagues, because that is where they are employed, they are representative, and they can stand up and have a voice. But I'm also calling out, don't tell me that the only people that can lead Black people are white people or other races. Don't tell me that. We do have the ability, we do have the wherewithal, we do have the intelligence, we do have the opportunity, the potential to take that and make it. Just seven Black coaches in the NBA. Last 3 days, 3 got fired, and they went and replaced them with non-Black coaches that they're looking at. That's not acceptable.